So I haven't really been interested in anything Resident Evil in like ever. Partly because it was never part of my childhood growing up, and partly because in the last 2 years we only got remakes of the older game. But when I heard that the new one was going to take place in the only country in the world I thought they were never going to use in a video game, motherfucking Romania. And not only that, but it was going to feature goddamn Sarmale. So it instantly brought me back to the first thing I ever wanted to do as a programmer, that being making a freakishly shitty horror game.
Not the soul of your design. I blatantly decline your remedy. Don't back me in. Don't.
I know you're thinking I'm a little bit late to this, and you're right. But I swear, the 3 hours I put into this, yeah, I only put in 3 hours, I'm a fucking procrastinator idiot, okay? Are the best goddamn 3 hours I've ever spent in my life. Also, this isn't really a Resident Evil clone. It's more of a backdoor pilot kind of thing for a future project I'm working on. Now, before even starting working on the game, I had to come up with a name that will A, not get me sued by Capcom, which is why I couldn't use Resident Evil Village 8 0-hour HD Unity 8K remake, and B, it will have to perfectly set up the feeling and atmosphere of the game, so I settled on very horror scary game. Ha 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 ha! How the fuck did I do that sound? How the fuck? What the fuck was that? Then for the character movement and character controller, I just used what I used last month when I did the Counter-Strike. Wait, that was how long ago? After I finished the basics, I imported all the assets I had saved into Unity, and by all I literally mean I imported every single one of the assets, but for one which I decided I will not need and will not have to use. Good thing I never actually used it, and it didn't crash my whole project or something. Then I started working on some of those essential Resident Evil features, such like text that appears when you hover over an item, because that's what makes a Resident Evil game instantly recognizable, and there's nothing else that could ever rival that feature. Then I made an arrow. I don't know why I made an arrow. It's not really an arrow, it's a cube. There's no bow that shoots the arrow, which is a cube. He comes out, the arrows come out of my face, but I really wanted to add arrows, so I added arrows. Then I wanted to add an inventory system, but while I was coding it, I realized it's a little bit complicated to explain, so that's exactly why I made this very overly simplified diagram that will make me easily explain to absolutely everyone how the inventory algorithm works. So let's say I pick up a thing, and I want it to go into my inventory. So what I do is write a script that checks if the slot is empty or not. If it's empty, the thing will go into the slot, but if it's not empty, then it will shift right once and will check again if it's empty or not, and it will loop that until it finds the one that's actually empty. So that sounds pretty easy when you say like that, right? So I started coding it, and everything went to goddamn shit. I swear to God, I've never ever in my life been this brain dead. Like, I've been sitting looking at this for 30 minutes straight, and yet I've made absolutely zero changes to it. So I left it like this. I didn't touch it. I decided to scrap the inventory system and just move on. So after failing with that, I decided to add something that will not fail on. So I made an enemy, to which I added a very, very complex AI system that uses 2 triggers. Now let's see, I have to make the clickbait thumbnail, so after adding the enemy, I got a little bit confused on what I was going to do, so I opened up Word and wrote down a few things that I was going to work upon. So that led me to working on the sprint mechanic and crouch, so I can complete the movement of the player. So obviously I started with the first thing, which was sprinting, which it turns out I actually already implemented, which is strange because I honestly don't remember ever coding this in, but it's here and it works. So like then I made the most basic crouch system. I was so brain dead I couldn't even make it toggle on controls, so you'll crouch on control and stop crouching on space, because I'm just a small brain, okay? After I finished the movement, I realized that I need a way to actually interact with the enemy other than her hugging it hugging me until I die. So I once again turned to the Counter-Strike clone I made earlier, stole the gun script, added it into my project. Then I wanted to add a prop so I can add the script onto it. So I decided to just import the one single asset I didn't import earlier. Big fucking mistake. That asset single-handedly fucked my entire project. I had never, in 2 years of using Unity, had my project this fucked. How? How does that even happen? After a few days, I decided to stop feeling bad about myself and implement everything back into a new project, which I did in half an hour. Everything took me around a week to make. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm a bad programmer, but it does mean that I'm the best when it comes to procrastinating, so I'll take that as a win. Please fucking, that is so goddamn cringe. After adding everything back, I decided to work on the atmosphere of the game, which will obviously be influenced by two things, the song and the aspect. So I cannot write music, so I decided to work on the terrain. So I started using the terrain tool built into Unity, but then I realized that was not gonna take me anywhere, since it turns out you actually need to think when using it, which is something I cannot do. So I decided instead of doing that, I will download Blender and make my own models for it. Did that go well? No, it didn't.
My parents made, I'm never moving on. Not made from love, a remnant of a selfish motive. Was I needed? Do I need